Good day. Welcome to NAC TV Reads the Neepawa Press. My name is Christine Waddell, and I am one of the many volunteers that help create programming for our station. You may be joining us online at Neepawa Access Live or WCG 12, Channel 30, Direct Sightline, MTS, or Bell Express View. These broadcasts are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, and donations by viewers like yourself. If you enjoy what you see and hear, please consider supporting us by a donation or by volunteering. Contact our office at 476-2639, and you can leave a message any time of the day or night. If there's an issue with programming, please call us and leave a message of the time of the program, date, and which program you're watching, because sometimes we come across tapes that we replay and we don't realize there's been an error or something happened to the tape. And without viewers like yourself letting us know at 476-2639, then we cannot fix the problem. And we want to give the best programming possible. Or you can reach us online with an email at nactv@wcgwave.ca. So enough of that. We've got another storm week, and you're fortunate that we are able to read from the proof pages of the Neepawa Press and keep our programming on schedule from this point of view. If you're wanting to pick up your Neepawa Press if you were wanting to pick it up on Tuesday, March 7th, it will not be there. The roads are closed on March 7th this year. So, the Neepawa Press, March 8th. And our big story, Scoring a Place in the Playoffs, by Owen Devereaux, the Neepawa Press. It was very fitting that the Neepawa natives had to rally from behind to defeat the Swan Valley Stampeders, as this team has made a habit recently of pulling off last-minute miracles. After trailing 2-0 in the first period, Neepawa exploded for 5 goals in the second and were able to hold on for a 6-3 win. The victory secured 8th place in the standings for the natives and ensured them their first appearance in the MGHL playoffs since the 2009-2010 playoffs or season. This time last month, the playoffs may have seemed unlikely to even the most ardent natives fan, as they had just 12 wins on the year. In their final 12 games, however, the team went on a 9-1 run, which included an 8-game home winning streak. That final home victory was the one that clinched postseason plays. For the nearly 1,000 fans that packed the Yellowhead Arena for the final regulation season, the contest didn't start as they hoped, as Swan Valley scored just 1:40 into the regulation. A second Stamps goal followed up at 13:59. In the second period, a pair of Swan Valley penalties turned the tide of the game. With a 2-man advantage, Ashton Anderson scored his first of the evening. 50 seconds later, Jordan Martin followed with another power play marker to tie things up at 2-2. That seemed to invigorate the team as they put away 3 more in quick succession. Justin Metcalf scored on a great individual effort. Then Captain Reagan Buchanan scored off a Skylar Thorstensen pass. To top off a tremendous second period, Ashton Anderson batted the puck out of the air off a crazy bounce off the glass. With 20 minutes remaining in regulation, Neepawa seemed to have control. Swan Valley came out aggressive in the final frame, knowing exactly what was at stake. They threw everything they had at the Neepawa net, but Tyler Gutenberg stood tall when it mattered most. Neepawa was able to retaliate near the midpoint of the period with Nolan Richards' goal. Swan Valley replied with their 3rd goal before the end of regulation, but were unable to climb back into the game as the natives won 6-3, sending the fans home ecstatic. And there is more to that story on page 5, but before I go there, on the front page, a fantastic photograph. Martin Warner was on hand with a camera, and he got a shot of Reagan Buchanan puts the puck behind Swan Valley goaltender Brett Evans. That was one of the 5 goals that Natives put into the back of the net in the second period as Neepawa went on to win 6-3. With the victory, the Natives advanced to the MJHL playoffs for the first time since the 2009-10 season. And on camera you may not be able to see it, but it's very, very clear that puck pushing out the back of the net. Just one of those photos that a photographer yearns to get. I'm going to go to page 5, and always a little awkward when we're working with proof pages. Page 5. And I'll continue with Owen's story from the front page. After the game, Reagan Buchanan said this win was amazing. To come back being down 2-0 and score 5 goals unanswered, that's phenomenal. I've never seen that in a game with the Neepawa Natives before, said Buchanan. The 20-year-old, who is playing his final year of MJHL eligibility, added that this has some added meaning to him on a personal level. This means everything to me. I haven't had a playoff appearance here in my 4 years. It's special for me, and to make it with this group of guys just gives it added significance. They have worked so hard in the second half of the season. In late December, I believe we were 12 points out of the playoff, but the guys just didn't give up. They deserve this. Head coach Dustin Howden said the entire coaching staff is extremely proud of what the players accomplished in this final month of the season. He attributes the team's year-end success to the players finding their identity. We're proud of the guys. It's been a long journey. It wasn't an easy one, and we're really happy with where we are at right now. These guys grew both on the ice and off, as players and as people. As the year progressed, Howden said, the character we have in that room, the guys have shown an eagerness to learn and improve themselves, be good citizens in the community. You couldn't ask for a better group of guys. Team President Ken Waddell said that the board is very pleased with the commitment the players, coaches, and staff put in throughout the regular season. This is the first playoff series since 2010. The manager and staff had set a goal to recruit and train a strong team and make the playoffs. Everyone is pleased for them, the players and the community. It has been an exciting season, and the playoffs should be great fun too, noted Waddell. The next challenge for Neepawa will be the Steinbach Pistons in the first round of the MJHL playoffs. Game 1 will be in Steinbach on Friday, March 10th. Game 2 will be at the Yellowhead Arena in Neepawa on Sunday, March 12th. Start time for the game is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. And I'll add, because of insider information, that there's rumor that there's going to be an indoor tailgate party at the Yellowhead. We'll watch and listen for that. That should be exciting. A photograph there of the end of the game, the team rushes onto the ice to celebrate making it into the playoffs after defeating Swan Valley 6-3 on Sunday, March 5th. It has been an amazing season. Back to page 2, Neepawa Press, looking back. Thank you, Cecil Pittman. So this is the week of March 8th. 50 years ago, and there's a photograph, 50 years ago, Tuesday, March 14th, 1967, the new Manitoba telephone system located at the corner of Hamilton Street and Brown Avenue. It's quite different now with all the gardens, and that's from Cecil Pittman's archives. So, Friday, 1937, 80 years ago. Dauphin is bringing a special train for a hockey game tonight. Anybody that has their car running, it would be appreciated if they would help bring the people downtown. The train is expected to arrive at about 6:30. At that time, the arena was down at the corner of Brown and Hamilton. So, yes, the train stations were a distance. 70 years ago, 47, approximately 1,200 from town and surrounding district attended the annual Lions Club Winter Carnival at the arena Saturday afternoon and evening. 21 members of the Winnipeg Club pleased the gathering with graceful and precision skating. Eric Abbott stole the show with his stunts. The show brought to Neepawa some of the best skaters in Western Canada and was heartily enjoyed by everyone in attendance and far surpassed the performance of other years. 1957, 60 years ago, March 14th. Neepawa pianist to perform on radio broadcast. 2 young musicians of Neepawa will be heard on the Brandon College radio program. Miss Audrey Lee will be heard at 5:15 p.m. Sunday, March 17th, and Miss Kathy O'Brien at the same time, Sunday, March 24th, over CKX Brandon. 50 years ago, in 1967, flashing a winning brand of hockey which could not be denied, Neepawa Natives Senior Club Wednesday night brought this district its first provincial sports championship recorded in Canada's centennial year. With more than 1,000 fans cheering them on in the sports arena, the local hockeymen won from Stonewall again, and the 8-6 triumph closed out the MAHA Intermediate A Championship in 2 straight games. Coach Don Smith's Natives shaded the home team in overtime at Stonewall Saturday 7-6. 40 years ago, 1977, stole car from under my nose. Harold Eisenberg still shaking his head in disbelief. It was taken right from underneath my nose, he said. Mr. Eisenberg's car was stolen in Neepawa on February 17th, right after he bought his new insurance. He had parked beside the Hamilton Hotel and gone next door to Shoemaker Gill to renew his insurance registration. He got his auto pack all in order, dropped the new registration in the car, and went back to Shoemaker Gill for one final word with the folks. When he came out in a few minutes, his 1971 Buick, new registration and all, was gone. You had to know Harold to really appreciate that story. 30 years ago, March 10th, smoke damage. Neepawa firemen surveyed the scene of mid-morning fire on March 5th. Fire Chief Don Evenson said only minor damage was created to the home at 155 Hamilton Street. 2 adult occupants and a child were able to get out of the home without injury. The fire department surmises the fire was caused by an electrical problem. The fire was confined to the ceiling of the home's upper level. One warning Evenson did have resulted from observing children attracted to the area and playing about the fire trucks. He said parents should keep a close watch on their children so as to prevent injury at the scene of such incidents. 1997, 20 years ago, religious exercises at Neepawa's Hazel M. Kellington Elementary School were banned last Monday, 4 years after the province outlawed the practice. Although the Court of Queen's Bench ruled the practice of religious exercises don't belong in public schools back in 1994, HMK principal John Nelson said the practice had continued since no parents ever objected. We felt we knew what our community would accept, said Nelson. We're a pretty traditional community and we don't have a lot of different religions. And 10 years ago, in 2007, a Gladstone-born and raised soldier, now based in Shiloh, is the recipient of a Mention in Dispatches award. Master Bombardier Jeffrey Fair was serving his first tour of duty in Afghanistan last year when his 5-person crew came under attack in May. Fair was a member of the OP Party observers who called in artillery when they were ambushed. The attack claimed the life of Captain Nicola Goddard, also of CFB Shiloh, and injured another soldier. The day of the fight, I took over her, Goddard's, job, Fair said. To be honest, I went into automatic pilot. It wasn't until 4 or 5 hours later that I realized what had really happened. Fair said he wasn't expecting any special recognitions, since he was simply doing what I am trained to do. Page 3. And we have 2 letters and a thumbs up, thumbs down. And this one is a thumbs down from Lane, England. The Anglican Church's pancake supper is today, February 28th, at noon, and we are likely to lose someone in the hole that has burst a tire, or have them burst a tire or break an axle. Seriously, it is a thumbs down. My daughter-in-law called the town on Saturday and left a message because her dad had to be towed out and he drives a half-ton truck. It is still not even barricaded off to warn people. I realize that it may not be possible to fix the problem in this weather, but people need to be kept away. I believe the town should be responsible for damages to vehicles, especially if they're making no efforts to prevent people from falling in. And that was a pothole that was noted on February 28th. There's a couple of letters. They're both from people who are connected to our community. One is from our Member of Parliament and the other from Don Doer of Dauphin, but I'm going to save them until the very end. And on page 4, HMK students show off science skills. 4 really great photos from their science fair. The HMK Grade 5 Science Fair took place in Left and Tarek, explaining their project called Soak It Up to fellow students. They wanted to find out what soil types held moisture the longest to discover why each spring Ryland's dad's land dried up and could be farmed sooner than Tarek's dad's land. And there are the boys with all their research. A good agricultural science research project. Amber and Kathleen conducted an experiment to see which types of solutions would fill a balloon with the most carbon dioxide. And they have their charts and visual examples. On the left, rock candy crystals. Haley and Tyler talked to the students about their experiment, which sought to find out the conditions under which rock candy crystals would grow the most quickly. Tyler said that they chose their experiments because it combined 2 things they liked, candy and crystal formations. And 3 boys down on our right-hand picture. Beware Bear. Dan, Ken, and Omar conducted an experiment to find out which solution would dissolve a gummy bear the fastest. So that's why the bear had to beware. They were dissolving them. And we're back to our sports page, and there is a second sports story on that page. Carberry stuns Neepawa early. And photo by Owen Devereaux. The Carberry Plainsmen have taken an early 2-0 series lead over the Neepawa Farmers in the THHL Eastern Final. The biggest likely takeaway for the Neepawa Farmers from the first 2 games of the Tiger Hills Hockey League Eastern Final is that the Carberry Plainsmen deserve to be there. Going into this matchup, There had been a few rumblings that Carberry was here simply due to facing a depleted Minnedosa Bombers squad in the previous round. The Plainsmen quickly put that rumor to rest by outskating, outscoring, and ultimately outplaying Neepawa on the way to a 6-3 win in Game 1 and an 8-3 triumph in Game 2. The opening game on Thursday, March 2nd, saw Carberry come out quickly, scoring just 66 seconds into the first, as Brock Sutherland slipped one past Curtis Nelson, while Neepawa's Ian Kirkowicz answered back 5 minutes later. It was Carberry who spent the majority of the period pushing the tempo and creating scoring chances. And that continues on page 8. As I say, it's the downside of using proof pages is that you're dealing with 8 sheets of paper, not 2. Plainsmen jump out to an early lead. Okay, there it continues. In the second period, the figurative floodgates broke open and swept Neepawa away as Carberry scored 4 times. One of those goals was a shorthanded tally with just 3 seconds left in the middle frame. 2 of those goals, including the last second score, were from Mitch Dell. Dylan Kelly and Michael Reckdahl registered the other markers. This offensive onslaught had the Plainsmen heading into the final 20 minutes of regulation with a 5-1 lead. Neepawa started the third period with energy, and that paid dividends on the score sheet. Lance Nugent put away a goal early in the period. Though it took some time, Matt Lowry was able to follow that up with one of his own with just 2 minutes and 57 seconds left in regulation, making it 5-3. Any glimmer of hope for a comeback was quickly extinguished, however, as Dustin Fisher scored for Carberry just 31 seconds after Neepawa's goal. That closed out the scoring as the Plainsmen took Game 1 in the best-of-7 series, while also stealing away home ice advantage. Brendan Reimer earned the win between the pipes for Carberry with a stellar performance. Brock Sutherland and Mitch Dell also led the way with 4 and 3 points, respectively, for the Plainsmen. On the Farmer side of the stat sheet, Lance Nugent generated a goal and an assist, while Ryan Minnie added a pair of assists. Matt Lowry and Ian Kirkowicz also added goals. 2 days later, Carberry hit their home ice feeling confident. That showed in their performance as they took an 8-3 decision. Zenon Zimmer tallied a 4-point night, 2 goals, 2 assists, while Riley Day scored a pair and added an assist. Lance Nugent, Clark Rempel, and Rhett Law all scored for the Farmers. Game 3 was played on Monday, March 6th at the Yellowhead Centre after the press publication deadline. And I believe they lost that game, the Neepawa Farmers did. Details on the game will appear in the Friday, March 10th edition of the Neepawa Banner. While I'm on page 8, we have a photo that was submitted by Andrew Dew, and we encourage you to submit your photos. His photo is squirrel. This photo of a squirrel was shot earlier this year in the Langford Neepawa Winter Park. This golden king was looking out on his land on a mild day. Squirrel. And we encourage you to share your pictures of past and present Neepawa, and you can email a high-resolution version, 1 megabyte or higher, to news@neepawabanner.com, or stop by the office at 243 Hamilton Street in Neepawa. And please include your name as well as a description of the photo. We've had some wonderful photographs submitted this past while. And that one's... I'm going to turn to page 6. It's become one of my favorites to read, and this is no exception because it's Rick Sparling's Where Are They Now? And this was the 1982, 83, 11-year-old House League team. So these are contemporaries of our sons. In the photograph, the 82, 83, 11-year-olds back row. Derek Cathcart, assistant coach. Chris Turner, BJ Birch, Derek Gilbert, Gary Funk, Miles Cathcart, Darren Joranson, and Brian Birch was the coach. In the front row is Sean Whalen, Sean Glauser, Lindsay Magwood, Mike Elliott, Mark Elliott, and Rick Baker. If you have an opportunity to pick up a copy of the Neepawa Press when it comes back to town, I'm sure you will enjoy seeing the pictures close up. So, where are they now? Derek Cathcart, assistant coach, was featured in the March 1st Neepawa Press as part of the 1975-76 House League. Chris Turner graduated from NACI in 1990 and stayed in Neepawa for a bit and played for the Natives until he decided to attend the University of Minnesota in Crookston. After a couple of years there, he returned to Neepawa and worked for Gardewine North. He opened Brahma's Grill just east of town from 2006 until 2012 and now manages his sister's rental company, Night Rentals, a company that caters to tents and other wedding needs. Chris married Carrie Dirksen and they have 5 children. Kelly, 21, Dax, 14, Trinity, 11, Jet, 10, Rockland, 6. Chris spends most of his spare time coaching all of the kids as all of them played or play minor hockey. BJ Birch graduated from NACI in 1989 and went directly to the Dauphin Kings junior hockey team. He was traded partway through to the Neepawa Natives. In 1990-91 season, he went to Winkler and decided to continue his education through Assiniboine Community College. He graduated in 1993 with a business administration certificate and after a short stint with Moore's Clothing, went to Trans-Canada Credit in Regina for 5 years before being transferred back to Brandon. He spent another 5 years at TCC there. BJ was business manager for Piccadilly RVs and went to Westoba Credit Union as a loans officer before getting into the automobile business at Radix Chrysler, where he was financial service manager. He left Radix to take a similar position at Murray's Chevrolet and has been there for the past 7 years. BJ married Diane Height and they have 2 girls, Avery 10 and Kelsey 7. He still plays some old-timers hockey and does some golfing in the summer as well as coaching his girls' baseball teams. Derek Gilbert moved from Neepawa to Somerville, Manitoba after grade 11 and graduated his grade 12 there. Derek chose the print industry and worked for Gravure Graphics in Winnipeg for 2 years and then decided to try his hand in the food industry and took a chef's course at Red River College. He worked at the Seven Oaks Youth Center, taking care of their culinary needs until 1993, at which time he got back into the printing business. He worked for Graphic Packaging until it was bought out by Sonico, and then when they closed in 2012, he went to Colorad Packaging, where he is today. Derek married Adora Dukaban in 2016, and they are living in Winnipeg. His hobbies include antiques and collectibles as well as classic cars. Gary Funk graduated from NACI in 1989 and went to work on the family farm. He is still on the farm today and they operate a mixed farm with grain and cattle. He married Carrie Tibbetts and they have 2 children, Oscar 12, Max 4. Gary likes to do a bit of curling and keeps busy running the kids to hockey and cadets. The Funks live in Arden. Miles Cathcart graduated from NACI in 1989. During his last year of high school, while attending Brandon University, Miles played for the Junior A Natives. He graduated from BU with a degree in education and his teacher's certificate, and his first teaching job was in Nelson House for 1 year. He went to Cranberry Portage for 2.5 years and McCreary for another 6.5 years, and finally found his way back to Neepawa to teach at NACI in 2014. He was married to Amanda Code, divorced, and they had 3 children, Abigail, 23, Haley, 19, and Rory, 16. He also has 1 grandchild, Loren, 2. Miles is engaged to Glenda Finkowich. In his spare time, he is also the general manager of the Junior A Neepawa Natives. Blaine Joranson left NACI to work for Schwann's Ice Cream, followed by some work in construction until he got on with CPR and eventually became a locomotive engineer with them in Calgary. Darren is single, and he and his girlfriend own some houses in Calgary that they manage and allows him to do his favorite pastime, renovating. Brian Birch, coach, went to NACI until 1967 and joined Manitoba Hydro for 6 months, at which time he went to Assiniboine Community College in Brandon to take a heavy-duty parts course. After graduating, he went to Brandon Auto for 2 years, then to McDougall's for a year before going to Agra Equipment Center case dealership. He spent 6 years at Mid-Canada Trucking and 19 years with Freightliner. Brian has been with Napa Auto Parts now for about 2.5 years. He married Nancy Ardron, and they have 3 children, BJ, 46, Bobby, 44, Bryce, 35, and 6 grandchildren, Avery, 10, Kelsey, 7, Kennedy, 8, Claire, 5, Hunter, 3, Madison, 3 months. Brian enjoys golfing and curling. Sean Whalen graduated from NACI in 1989 and went to Brandon University to study education and earned his teaching certificate. Around 1993, he got his first teaching post in Vermilion, Alberta, and has been there ever since. He is currently the vice principal at St. Jerome's School. Sean married Nancy Bremner from Neepawa, and they have 3 children, Sophie, 13, Drew, 11, and Ella, 8. Sean coaches most of the school sports and kids hockey, and he still plays some hockey in the winter and golfs in the summer. Sean Glauser moved to BC and is currently on a fishing boat, which could take him out to the ocean for as long as 2 or 3 months. For that reason, I have not been able to make contact, so hopefully someone will put me in touch with him and his information can come later in another column. Lindsay Magwood went to Portage for a couple of years after leaving school. Then he returned to Neepawa to work at High Life, Co-op, and Trail Meats. In the meantime, Lindsay took his level 2 firefighting training and has been with the fire department now for 20 years. He also got his power engineering certificate in 2007 and has been working in Country Meadows Nursing Home in the maintenance department. He married Charlotte Flaming, an Arden girl, and they have 4 children, Sydney, 19, Zane, 16, Charcy, 15, and Devlin, 13. Lindsay is an active curler and coaches the high school zone curlers. He also coaches indoor soccer with the girls on Tuesdays and Thursdays and the boys on Mondays and Wednesdays, and referees on the weekend, which leaves very little time for anything else. The Magwoods live in Arden. Mike Elliott graduated from NACI in 1990, and after a short while moved into Winnipeg, where he worked for Grapes on Main, a local restaurant, and attended the University of Manitoba for 2 years before taking a break and still carried on at Grapes. After 2 years, he went back to university. He graduated in 1998 with a Bachelor of Science and Agriculture degree, and he worked a couple of term jobs at DuPont in Yorkton and Novartis in Brandon, both agricultural companies, and headed back to Winnipeg to work for Manitoba Pork Marketing for a couple of years, then went into Prairie West Industrial and State Chemical before settling at Ashland Water, which became Robertson Midland Corporation in sales. He's been there now for about 9 years. Mike married Corinne Beliveau, and they have 3 children, stepson Deshaun, 26, Nelson, 14, Jackson, 11. Mike spends most of his spare time watching his boys play hockey and other activities, and likes to travel when the opportunities arise. Mark Elliott graduated from NACI in 1990 and went directly to Red River College, where he graduated from the Business Administration program in 1993. He worked briefly for Icon Office Solutions before becoming a sales rep for Schneider's Meats for 6 years. In 2001, he moved to Wajax Equipment, selling construction equipment, and is still there today, some 16 years later. Mark married Laura Williamson, and they have 2 children, Jaden, 14, and Luke, 12. Mark likes to travel, work out, and follows the Winnipeg Jets. He also enjoys following his son's hockey games and his daughter's dancing and baseball games. They live in Winnipeg. Rick Baker graduated from NACI in 1989 and went to Brandon University, earning his teaching degree. After university, Rick worked as an executive assistant to Glenn Cummings, the MLA for the area, for 3 years. He worked for Trade and Tourism, then managed the Whitemud Watershed for 10 years. Rick used his teaching degree to sign up as an instructor at Assiniboine Community College in Brandon. In 2008, he is still there. He was married and divorced and has a son, Lyndon, 19, at Brandon University, and a daughter, Kennedy, 17, who attends school in Neepawa. Rick lives in Franklin and commutes to his work daily. So that's where all those young men are now. Thank you for that. And the opinion page, back to page 3, and view from Parliament Hill, carbon tax cover-up. This is from MP for Dauphin Swan River Neepawa, Robert Sopuck. The Liberal government continues to defend their decisions to impose a carbon tax on all Canadians, and now they are covering up how much it will cost us. At first, the Liberals said they would not know how much it will cost Canadian families and businesses. However, recently, a heavily censored Finance Canada memo revealed the government does have the answers, but they're choosing not to tell Canadians. Research shows that low-income Canadians will have the hardest time paying a carbon tax, as this new tax makes the cost of necessities like home heating, food, and fuel more expensive. This means that the Liberal-imposed carbon tax could have devastating effects on our constituency because many of the people live on modest incomes and need to travel long distances regularly. This lack of understanding on the effects of carbon tax on rural communities is made more evident by the green energy programs implemented by provincial governments. In Ontario and Quebec, people can get up to $14,000 rebate for buying a $150,000 electric Tesla car. If you can afford a $150,000 car, you do not need $14,000 from other taxpayers. This equates to essentially transferring wealth from the poor to the rich. It just does not make sense. Prior to becoming a member of Parliament, I worked in environmental science and environmental policy. It is important that every environmental policy program and dollar spent needs to generate real and measurable environmental results. I have asked this Liberal government time after time whether their imposed carbon tax will see any measurable environmental results, and they are unable to answer directly. Instead, they choose to discuss the revenue from the carbon tax, which will all go to the provinces to spend where they see fit. That does not sound like an environmental policy to me. It sounds like a tax hike. Families, businesses, and all Canadians deserve to know how much this new tax will cost them and how it will help towards measurable environmental outcomes. As a Conservative caucus, we are going to keep demanding answers on behalf of taxpayers. We will continue to fight against the Liberal-imposed carbon tax and all other tax hikes on a daily basis. We encourage everyone to sign petition E910 at the website Petitions Parliament GCCA, petitions.parl.gc.ca, and demand an end to the carbon tax cover-up level. If you have any questions or concerns about issues at the federal level, please contact my constituency offices at 848-7000 or toll-free 877-405-8946, or by email at info@robertsopak.ca. And a letter to the editor from Don Doer, Dauphin, Manitoba. Riding Mountain National Park should be able to be enjoyed in all seasons. I first want to agree with MP Robert Sopak on the beauty of Riding Mountain National Park. February 22nd, Neepawa Press. And all the history and nature connected with the park. In his last sentence, he encourages us to go many times this year and see what the park has to offer during every different season. What Mr. Sopak neglected to say is that under the previous government, this would not be possible, as the Harper government had decided that Riding Mountain National Park would become a 3-season park. As a 3-season park, there would be no support for winter activities in the park. This policy was decided in the process of being implemented while Mr. Sopak remained silent. Cross-country ski trails were only available to the public through the dedicated efforts of volunteers surrounding the park. Riding Mountain National Park is unique. It is described as an island of wilderness surrounded by a sea of farmland. As such, it is the only national park in Canada that is surrounded by settlements and economic activity. There should be some consideration given to the economic impact of Parks Canada's decisions on the surrounding area. Parks Canada, through consecutive governments, has treated all parks equal and made decisions which in this case of Dauphin Swan River Neepawa constituency has had a negative impact on the region, not the least of which was the decision to make it a 3-season park. As a critic for Parks Canada, you would expect Mr. Sopak to have an interest in how some decisions negatively impact our constituency and be a vocal supporter of change. And that again was Don Doer of Dauphin, Manitoba. And let us see. Just a reminder, our major fundraiser is coming up for the talent show. If you know someone who's in it, make sure you support them, and all donations go to help run the station, and to there is prizes as well for the participants. I don't think there's anything in particular in the classifieds that I'm going to read. The last thing I'll share is just Neepawa Natives in Review, and that we've read all of those things actually in the other stories. So I think that's it. We don't have when you only have an 8-page paper with lots of ads, there isn't an hour of reading. But I'd like to thank you for watching and tuning in to NACTV again this week, and encourage you to remember to support us. And as I've said, if there's any questions or concerns about programming, you can phone at 476-2639. Our office is open Monday to Thursday from 9 to 4. Nikki, our manager, tries to be here at those hours, and we appreciate any comments. And as I say, if there's programming issues that you observe and you think that didn't seem right, we had a tape a few weeks ago that did not end properly, and we did not know that. It was a curling tape from a few years ago, and there was a technical problem. The score didn't, the final end of the game didn't record, and we were not aware of that. So we appreciate the person who let us know. Those things, we can't change what a tape was, but we can certainly avoid playing it again and causing frustration or confusion for people. So again, thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful week. Thank you.